Hello, beautiful souls. This is Jamie Goldstein, intuitive astrologer, and I'm so excited to be here for the Astrology 101. Learn the structure of the natal chart so you can begin to bridge the as above and so below. So today we are really going to ground into the orientation of the natal chart, the sacred astronomy of the natal chart, because that is the foundational understanding how to orient to the chart. And then you can begin to add the juicy meaning and interpretation. And there is a correspondence between the astronomy and the interpretation. So we will do a little bit of interpretation at the end. I have a guidebook to accompany this webinar. If you're watching the replay, just find the email with the replay and you can download the guidebook. And so at the end, just for this webinar will probably be like an hour, about an hour-ish. And at the end, for just about 2 minutes, I'm going to share about my Foundations of Chart Reading course. It's an 8-week course that starts next week. I'm really excited about it. And I have some cool bonuses and, a discount that's going to be available through tomorrow. So Saturday, February 12th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific. So if you're aligned, if your heart's saying yes to take the course, then, stay till the end or go to the end to find that deal. But I hope you go through this webinar. And regardless, this is going to give you a good foundation to start to orient to the natal chart here. So I am going to pull up my slides here. All right. So I am an intuitive astrologer. I have a lot of mutable energy in my chart. That just means planets in the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces. So the mutable signs are changing. They're integrative, they're bridging. I bridge a lot of different aspects or disciplines or traditions of astrology together. So I love the evolutionary astrology approach, the shamanic astrology perspective, especially their perspective on the archetypes. I've been really deeply syncing with Venus's 19-month cycle and bringing that as a very strong emphasis into my astrology. I weave some in with medical astrology, some with traditional astrology techniques and the Hellenistic astrology perspective. So I integrate a lot in together, and I kind of have my own unique perspective. And I really encourage everyone to find their own unique perspective in interpreting astrology. And I really embrace my intuition in astrology chart interpretation and the feminine way of perceiving, multidimensional perceiving, embracing the nonlinear and the not knowing. I think there's space in astrology for the great mystery, for the not knowing, as we've kind of had this very scientific, reductionistic, materialistic kind of view to kind of reduce everything down, to its separate parts. That's even influenced the astrology field some, where there's kind of sometimes this energy of, to figure out everything there is to know about the chart and to kind of reduce it down to the parts. And then it's like, to me, no, there's space for the not knowing. There's space to allow things to unfold in their own timing. And I have such a reverence for the mystery and not knowing and leaning into the not knowing. So I really hold space for that in astrology. And I've learned over time to hold space for that in my readings. Not everything's meant to know with our linear rational mind at all times. And our charts will reveal new and new insights and mystery and magic to us over time. So I really like to hold space for that. I have an embodied approach. So I really feel the planets within me, the as above, so below, as within, so without. I feel the planets speaking through me. So when I'm talking about planets, I'm really saying our inner Venus, our inner Mars, because we are a mirror reflection of the cosmos. And I have a very strong emphasis of connecting with the living sky. So I go outside, I'm with the night sky, I'm with the day sky, and I receive direct transmissions directly from receiving the light of the planets, of the stars, of the sun into my eyes. So I really encourage people to go out and be with the sky. So I just want to take a moment to really share or explore just very briefly. This would take oh my gosh, this would be like a 5-hour webinar to go into deeply, but what is astrology? So it's the study of time, and it's the study of cycles within cycles. There's all these cycles within cycles happening with astrology. And by becoming aware of it, we can more consciously sync with the natural rhythms of earth and sky, which is our natural way of being, living in alignment with nature's principles, which we've really kind of gotten out of touch with in our modern world. Like you may know, the moon takes from new moon to new moon. It's about 29.5 days. Well, Saturn, and kind of interestingly, the moon's given rulership to Cancer. The opposite sign, Saturn's given rulership to Capricorn. Saturn has a 29.5 year cycle. Moon, 29.5 days. Saturn, 29.5 years. It takes Saturn 29.5 years to circle around the zodiac and come back to where Saturn was. So when you're 29.5, Saturn comes back to where Saturn was when you were born. You have your Saturn return. So there's this, right, this fractal, this mirroring, and there's so much like that in astrology. I sync with Venus's 19-month cycle. It's this journey of releasing distortions of the feminine we've taken on throughout our lives, and to reclaim our authentic feminine essence, to reclaim our true feminine essence, to live on the path of heart. Mercury has about 116-day cycle, about a 4-month cycle. I sync with that it's really awesome if you're, you've got like a writing project or a podcasting project or something, a creative project that has to do with Mercury. Writing, communication, speaking, those kinds of things. So there's so many cycles and they're all happening simultaneously. So, and astrology is the study of correspondences. So astronomy is the measurement of, the celestial bodies through space, through time. With astrology, we're adding the correspondence. That's the meaning. So how celestial movements correspond to earthly events. And I love this quote. I mean, you've probably heard, as above, so below, that the Hermetic Principle, this comes from the Emerald Tablets by Hermes Trismegistus. So, and the actual, the text is, that which is above is like that which is below. That which is below is like that which is above, to perform the miracle of the only one thing. So this speaks to everything. It's not that which is above causes that which is below, right? It's not showing causation. It's showing the correlation, the correspondence. What's above mirrors what's below. What's below mirrors what's above. So it's not that the planets cause anything. They don't make things happen to us. There is this mirroring. So everything's energy. So we start to notice, when this planetary transit happens, I have this experience. It's based on our own energy, right? We change our energy, we have a different experience because now we're an energetic match to something else. And from an evolutionary astrology perspective, it's like we experience the planetary transit. So that's planets moving around the sky, coming into sacred geometry with one another. It's like little tuning forks, activating energy. And they also make sacred geometric angles to our own personal natal chart, activating things for us on a personal level. That's why we don't all experience astrology the same way, because our own charts are interacting differently with the sky. But we experience what we need on our evolutionary journey, right? Today, as I'm filming this, Mercury, the planet of perception, attention, thought, communication, speaking, writing, is with Pluto, the planet of transformation. Pluto's always bringing what's hidden within the psyche to the light of consciousness, conscious awareness. So every time Mercury comes to Pluto, it's like something can be revealed from our unconscious about our unconscious thinking, perceptions, right? It's our perception is everything. Mercury, the first one of the, Hermetic principles, the first one is the law of mentalism. All is mind. We create our reality with our thoughts. So Mercury comes to Pluto and it's like, ooh, what's the self-limiting way of thinking, perceiving that needs your awareness? And it comes up. And, Pluto tends to, when Pluto's activated, we can have big triggers because how else will we know there's something within that's unresolved or unprocessed or not supportive within our unconscious that needs our attention? We have the trigger to let us know. And then once we resolve it, it doesn't happen anymore. So when we do the inner work, the inner and outer work, what may have been a challenging, when the moon comes here every month, it's been challenging, then it no longer is challenging anymore. And it can actually become one of our greatest gifts and skill sets. So just a little, oh my gosh, I would love to go really deep into the whole philosophy of of how this relates to astrology. But the main thing is that it's not the planets above causing what's happening below. There's a correspondence. And I love, as a shamanic astrology mystery school says, we inform the mysteries just as much as they inform us, that we're co-creating together. It's not just one directional. So to get us even dropping into looking at an astrology chart, we need to know the zodiac that we're working with. So I work with the tropical zodiac. Most of us in Western astrology are working with the tropical zodiac. It's basically, how are we dividing the sky? And there are different zodiacs. There's the sidereal zodiac used in Vedic astrology. There's the constellational zodiac that perfectly matches up with the constellation. So with the tropical zodiac, there are 12 signs, each 30 degrees. So 12 times 30 is 360, making the circle. And the tropical zodiac, the kind of translation is tropical, or tropicos means to turn. And the zodiac is a circle of animals. So the tropical zodiac holds the sun. So I love, as Gemini Brett, one of my teachers, says, the tropical zodiac is the circle of spirit. It's always holding the sun. The sun is spirit, life force energy, vitality, eros. And so, throughout the year, the sun goes through all 12 signs throughout the year. About once a month, the sun changes signs. Now, it's not aligned with our calendar months, so the March equinox, about March 20th, 21st, the sun moves to 0 degrees of Aries. Then at about, April 20th, 19th, the sun moves to 0 degrees of Taurus, and the sun will be in Taurus. So throughout the year, the sun is held through the 12 signs of the zodiac that are the backdrop of the zodiac. And the 12 signs of the zodiac circle around as the earth spins on her axis one time, one full rotation every 24 hours. It's actually, I think, 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds. The entire circle of animals, the zodiac, spins 360 degrees because the earth is spinning 360 degrees. And so we can see that the turning of the circle of the animals. And even based on, we can't ever see the sign the sun is at during the daytime, because the sun blinds out the sky when the sun rises, right? But at nighttime, when the sun's not above the horizon, throughout the year, the circle of animals turns, right? So in wintertime, here in the Northern Hemisphere, we see like Sirius is like, at midnight, Sirius is kind of like right at the midheaven, and the Orion constellation. And then in the summertime, as the sun's moving through Cancer, we don't see Sirius. So the summertime at nighttime around midnight, right at the middle, the midheaven of the sky, you're going to see the Archer constellation, the galactic center, the Milky Way dust clouds. So throughout the year, and it just slowly happens throughout the year. If you're a night sky gazer, you'll see slowly the circle of animals shifting throughout the year. And so, and if this is kind of seems a little abstract or tangential, I invite you just to kind of let it be, let this kind of just land where it wants to land for a moment. So the tropical zodiac represents the 12 signs that the sun moves through in its yearly motion. It's how the tropical zodiac holds the sun, and the tropical zodiac holds the ecliptic plane. So when I say holds the sun, it's really holds the ecliptic plane. It's the apparent path of the sun through the zodiac in its yearly motion. Actually, what the ecliptic plane is the path of the earth. It's the earth rotating around the sun, the earth orbiting around the sun. But because we're here on earth, it looks like the sun is orbiting around us. So this is the circle of spirit. So I want to show you for a moment. Let me come here, and I'm going to pull up the chart here for the Aries Equinox, and I'm going to get it like kind of close to sunrise here. Aries Equinox. I meant to have this. Yeah, this is like pretty close to sunrise here. Aries Equinox, and oops. Uh-oh. I'm having a technical moment here. I thought I had it set. Okay. I thought I had it set, and here we go. So, all right, this is just before the Aries equinox. So I'm going to just pull up the astrology chart here. And so, and we're going to get more into this, but these outer, on the outside of the wheel, right? It's even, I love it's yellow. So like the circle of spirit. We can see here the sun, and we'll get into this, but this eastern horizon here, this is your ascendant. This represents the eastern horizon. So this is right at sunrise. The sun's at 29 degrees of Pisces, so almost at the equinox. So I'm just going to go ahead an hour at a time. And if you watch, if you go, let me find the drawing tool here. So here is Aries. So if you watch this little symbol, and then it's going to move clockwise. So I'm just going to scroll an hour at a time here. All right. So if we watch it, we see, and I'm going to go an entire day. We're going to come to the equinox this day. So I'm going an hour at a time. Do you see how that Aries symbol, that red Aries symbol is going now? The sun's at midday. The sun's with the midheaven. Okay. And then the sun's just under the descendant. So the sun's setting. It's actually whole science charts here. And we see we're at about, here's about sunrise. The next day, the sun's with the ascendant. We're at sunrise. And then the sun's at 0 degrees of Aries, the equinox. And so we see within one day, the entire wheel turned 360 degrees. Every sign of the zodiac rose over the eastern horizon. This is where the sun sets on the western horizon. Every sign in the zodiac set under the western horizon. All 360 degrees of the zodiac went through an entire circle around the 360 degrees of the chart. So we see this spinning of the circle of animals. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of ground that in here. And I love this. So, many say the tropical zodiac is, tries to like debunk it because it doesn't align with the constellations. And that actually does not invalidate the tropical zodiac, because the tropical zodiac is very astronomical. The tropical zodiac is aligned to the cardinal direction. So I love this quote from Gemini Brett. Tropical astrology is a wisdom tradition based upon the energies of the cardinal direction. So the tropical zodiac is set based on the equinoxes and the solstices. That's about as astronomical as it gets. So every time the sun comes to 0 Aries, that is the exact moment of the equinox at one point in time. And of course, spring equinox in the northern hemisphere and fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. But regardless, the sun is at 0 degrees of Aries. Then the sun comes to 0 degrees of Cancer. We have the June solstice. The sun comes to 0 degrees of Libra. We have the Libra equinox, or the September equinox, and the sun comes to 0 degrees of Capricorn, and we have the Capricorn or the December solstice. And so the constellations are not perfectly aligned to the zodiac. And in fact, over a very long period of time, they will go through all the signs of the zodiac. And it appears that our ancient astrologers knew this, that the zodiac was not really set to be aligned with those 12 constellations of the zodiac. And so I love how the shamanic astrology mystery school perspective differentiates the signs of the zodiac. So those are the 12 30-degree signs, calling them, as we know them, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and so on. And the constellations, to give them the different names, so there's not confusion: the ram, the bull, the twins, the crab. And the constellations are not all 30-degree segments in the sky. So if any zodiac is with any type, tropical or sidereal, that has 12, 30-degree signs, they're not ever going to be perfectly aligned to the constellations, because the constellations are not 30-degrey segments. So the Virgo, or I should say the Priestess constellation, is about 45 degrees. That's a zodiac sign and a half. The Aries or the Ram, I need to not get confused here. The Ram constellation is much smaller. So all the actual constellations are different sizes. And so, but the tropical zodiac is based on the cardinal directions. So, and that's how it works for both hemispheres, that no matter if you're in the northern or the southern hemisphere, Aries, the 0 degrees of Aries, the zodiac sign, is due east of the center of Earth. 0 degrees of Libra is due west of the center of Earth. 0 degrees of Cancer is due north, and 0 degrees of Capricorn is due south. And so that's how it works for both hemispheres. Now, because the spine of Gaia, as Gemini Brett says, the axis of Earth is tilted about 23.5 degrees. We do have the seasons, and because of the equinoxes and solstices, they are related to the seasons. But the tropical zodiac is based on, these directions. So there are different types of zodiacs. The tropical, which in Western astrology, that's what I'm working with. There's the sidereal zodiac, which I love. My sidereal chart works beautifully for me as well. And you can work constellationally. I do work with the constellations, as in when planets are actually coming and making conjunctions with specific stars in the sky. And so there is, all these zodiacs, and there's even other types of zodiacs as well. The zodiacs are just the different ways we can essentially slice the pieces of pie in the sky. And I just kind of find whichever one you're energetically drawn to working with. Like for me, the tropical zodiac, that's probably just what you're most in energetic resonance with. We live in a multidimensional reality where it's not just one thing. So now we're going to get more into, that was just a little grounding into the natal, or into the tropical zodiac. Now we're going to get into the natal chart, because the natal chart is a snapshot of the moment that you were born based on your date of birth, your time of birth, and your location of birth on the world. Everybody has a natal chart, and you can actually cast a natal chart for anything, like the start of a business, a wedding, big life events. They have natal charts as well that are significant. But in this context, I'm talking about personal birth charts. Okay. So the natal chart is, there's a few different things. There are the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? So there's a zodiac, that circle of spirit, the backdrop of, of these signs through the sky that hold the sun and its yearly motion. And from our perspective here on Earth, hold all the planets. Of course, the planets are moving around the sun, but from our perspective here on Earth, we see them kind of moving around us, and we live here on Earth. So that's why we kind of base these from here on Earth. But so the astrology chart is, it's comprised of the zodiac, but then it's like, well, where is the zodiac in relationship to where we are on Earth? Because the Earth is spinning 360 degrees, every day. So while Aries is always due east of the center of Earth, Aries is not always due east of, any of us. Where I'm at right now, Aries is not due east at this moment. So this webinar started at 1 p.m. On February 11th, and Aries, this is where Aries was in the sky. So this would be Gemini is ascending over the eastern horizon. Aries is moving towards close to due south, not quite yet, but is moving. It's still a little bit east. It's somewhere between it's about southeast, honestly. But if you were somewhere about 12 hours away, Aries would be over here, which would be more like that would be like west. So that would be like moving northwest. And so the Earth is always spinning. So what the natal chart is, we get the snapshot in time based on our longitude and latitude on Earth. And that lets us know how can we orient what part of the zodiac was in alignment with the earth in her own daily spin? If that's feeling or sounding a little confusing, I invite you to just kind of let that come and go for a moment. Some of these things ground with more time. The best way to really understand the astronomy is like to go outside and experience it. So there are four main components of a natal chart. Our natal chart is an energetic snapshot. So we each carry the energy of our natal charts. The moment that we took our first breath on Earth, we carry the energy of the way the planets were aligned at that time. And we carry that energy throughout our lifetime. So I'm a living and breathing expression of the way the planets were aligned when I was born. You're a living and breathing expression of the way the planets were aligned when you're born. And we go through an evolutionary journey. So we're not just like static, but our chart shows our soul's evolutionary intention in this lifetime. It shows things we're bringing in from past lives, past gifts, also as well as unresolved type things, some karmic things. And it also shows the experiences that we wanted to have in this lifetime, areas of growth, expansion, just lived experiences. And, our chart shows things about soul's purpose. What is our sacred contribution here to this world? And we all have a choice whether we live in alignment with the evolutionary intention of our chart or not. The more we're choosing not to, we have fated, destined events that kind of try to bump us back in alignment with our soul's evolutionary intention. The more most people find, the more in alignment they're living with their soul's evolutionary intention, the more joy, happiness, meaning, purpose they have. When we're living very far out of alignment, we tend to feel a lack of meaning and purpose. And actually, what I love, the more in alignment we are with our charts, is actually then things become quantum. We're not so tied to fate and destiny, in my opinion. We have a lot more free will, how we meet the energy. So that's kind of my own personal perspective. It's like once we really master our natal chart, then it's like we're free of it in many senses. It's like Saturn is the boundaries of Earth and time, and then Uranus breaks us out of physical reality. So once we master physical reality, we get to transcend it some and play outside of the rules. So that's getting a little philosophical, but these are the four main components of natal chart interpretation. We're not going to do too much interpretation today. Today, the intention is to orient you to the chart. So the four main components are, we have the planets. So right here, let me see here. Just want to try to, I want you to be able to see. Okay, maybe let me try this. Let me just try this. So like here's the sun, here's Saturn, Mercury, Pluto, Venus, there's Venus, Mars. So those are the planets. They move around the inside of the chart here. And so the movement, and now this can get kind of confusing because the movement of the spin of night to day, hour to hour, minute to minute goes clockwise through the chart, but the planets actually move counterclockwise around the zodiac because the order of the zodiac goes counterclockwise: Aries and Taurus and Gemini and Cancer. I just want to plant a little seed here. That's a little more technical and advanced, but you'll see day to day, the sun will move 1 degree. So today the sun's at 23 Aquarius. Tomorrow the sun will be at 24 Aquarius and 25 Aquarius. Then the sun will get to 0 Pisces. So the sun moves this way, counterclockwise, day to day throughout the year, month to month. But minute to minute, hour to hour, if you spin the chart, it's going to look like it's going counterclockwise. And actually both are happening at the same time. It's not either or. So it's day to day, the chart, if we're spinning minute to minute or hour to hour, we're going to see the chart spin clockwise, but at the same time, the planets are moving counterclockwise through the zodiac. So if a planet is in direct motion, it's going counterclockwise through the zodiac day to day. If it's in retrograde, it's going to move backwards through the zodiac. So just to give you like a little of that orientation here. So there's the planets they move through the inside of the chart. And the planets are like the different aspects of our personality. So each planet has a different need, drive, want, function, motivation. And just to make it easier, we often just kind of bring in the sun and moon, call them planets. They're not planets, they're different. They're actually termed something called luminaries in astrology chart interpretation. But for simplicity's sake, We're just going to call it that. So they each have, they're the different aspects of our personality, right? The moon are my emotional needs. What do I need for nurturance, safety, comfort? Venus is my need for connection and sensuality, it's relationships. She's my self-worth, my self-value, my need for pleasure and experiencing the sensual experience of life, and to give and receive affection. And the deeper level of Venus is like our heart wisdom, our sacred feminine essence. Mars is my need to take action. So Venus is like, what do I desire from my heart? And Mars is my ability to go out and get what my heart desires, or to keep away what my heart doesn't desire. Jupiter is like my need for expansion. Saturn is my need to cultivate the self-mastery, to live in alignment with my soul's purpose. Mercury is my need to think, perceive, understand the world around me, to communicate. So every planet represents a different aspect of our personality. Now, the planets move through the sign. So depending on what sign in your natal chart the planet is in, the planet will express differently. You can think of the 12 signs of the natal chart as like 12 different consciousnesses, or I love as a shamanic astrology school calls them 12 different mystery schools. So Venus will express differently in the mystery school of where she's at now, Capricorn versus Pisces versus Aries. So if she's in Virgo, let's say, Venus is the beauty way. She's so many things, but Venus in Virgo is going to have this love, find beauty. Virgo's the priestess mysteries. So, and sacred ceremony. It's like life as ceremony. So it might be getting up and creating this like ritual, the ceremonial start to your day. So the morning sadhana, maybe the meditation, not just meditation, like getting up and meditating. It's like having the candles, the incense, the oils, and then maybe making your chai tea or juicing. And it's like ceremonial, and then dancing or going out for the walk and walking barefoot on the earth and connecting with the earth and the trees and appreciating the beauty of everything. Venus and Virgo is going to find beauty in an organized environment, a clean environment, things in their right place, very energetically attuned to like feng shui, right? Things being just in their right place. Now, Venus is in Aries. It's a different mystery school. Venus in Aries might feel kind of constricted or confined in too much ritual, things being the same, routine. Venus in Aries is she's going to find pleasure. She's going to find the beauty way. Her sacred feminine essence is going to want to express through more of adventure, novelty, excitement, not being too routine. She'll find beauty in messiness, whereas Virgo might find beauty in organization, things being in the right place, right? So we can just see here the energy is expressing differently, and it's thought of whatever sign any of our planets are in. That's the mystery school, that aspect of our personality, of ourself, wanted to really, experience in this lifetime, have learning lessons, grow, play, and self-master in this lifetime. So then, no matter where you're at on Earth, the planets will be at the same degree in the zodiac. So in this moment in time, the sun is at 27 degrees of Aquarius. I have this set for 1 p.m. in Dallas, Texas. So we'll get to in a moment, the sun is with the midheaven. That means the sun's just past the midheaven. So the sun is just past midday. When the sun comes to the midheaven, that's high noon, that's midday, not always 12 p.m. It's when the sun goes through, goes through an arc through the sky every day. The sun rises low on the horizon. Then, the first part of the day, the sun gets higher and higher. Then the sun comes to midday. There's that peak and the arc, and then the sun goes down. So when the sun's at the peak and the arc, that's midday. That's where the shadow's the shortest. It's the sun. We're getting the most direct sunlight that day. So I specifically chose to schedule this webinar for 1 p.m. Central because the sun was with the midheaven. That's a great time to be seen, to be sharing in a professional sense. So the astrology informed when was the best time for me to schedule this today. But here in Dallas, Texas, as the webinar started at 1 p.m. Earlier today, then that's at 1 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, when the webinar started, the live webinar, the sun was at midday for me. But if you are in another time zone, the sun's not going to be at midday. So I'm organizing a summit right now. I'm so excited. I'm interviewing incredible astrologers from all over the world. It's called Bridging Sky and Earth, Embodying the Star Wisdom. It's going to be a free offering to you. Just stay tuned on my email list and you'll get access to it. But I was interviewing one of my dear sisters who's an astrologer who's living in Thailand. They're about 12 hours apart, I think 13 hours apart. So in this moment, 1 p.m., not 1 p.m. at this moment now, but 1 p.m. Dallas, Texas, let's pretend like it is. The sun's at midday for me. In Thailand, the sun's not at midday for her. So we can see that. Whoops. We can see that in the chart. So the astrology chart, that's why we need the time of day and the location, the longitude and the latitude to really figure out, because the astrology chart is orienting us to our local sky. So I actually have a little chart. Oh, where is it? Yeah, here. So this is actually Thailand. Where my friend who's an astrologer is at. So 1 p.m. here in Dallas, Texas, the sun is at midday. And I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I think that's okay. For her, this is the same exact time. For her, 1 p.m. here, for me, the same exact time as 2 a.m. for her in Thailand. The sun is just, maybe an hour past the IC. So it's nighttime for her. So the chart is actually telling me here in Dallas, Texas, because I'm here in Dallas, Texas, I can go outside. I'm going to see the sun at the highest point in the sky. It's going to be overhead, not directly overhead the zenith, but it's going to be at the high point in the sky. My friend in Thailand, I know we can look at this chart. If we didn't have, let's say we didn't have the time there, of course it's 2 a.m. we can know, but let's say we pretend we didn't have the time there. Just looking at the chart alone, we can know this is nighttime for her because the sun is down here. This is the horizon line that runs, through, it's actually the ascendant descendant axis right there. But for her, I can know, if I was in Thailand where she's at right now, I could walk outside, turn towards the western horizon, and I would see the moon just about to set over the western horizon, probably within about 30 minutes or so. The sun will set, or not the sun, the moon will set over the western horizon. So jumping a little ahead, but I'm just wanting to really show us that the chart is not just showing us where the planets are in the zodiac. We need the location, the time of day to get the precise orientation of the local sky where the chart was cast. So to know what was overhead in the sky, what was not visible in the sky. Oops, I'm just going all over the place. And we can see here, these are the same exact moment in time, even though they're different times because of the time zone. They are the same moment in time because the moon moves the quickest. The moon moves about a degree every 2 hours. And every degree, the big numbers on the chart by the planet symbols. And you can go into your workbook. I have all the planet symbols for you there. The big numbers are the degrees. There's 30 degrees in every sign, 0 through 29, but every degree can be broken into 59 arc or 60 arc minutes, 0 through 59. So with the moon moves about a degree every hour or every 2 hours, but the arc minute of the moon will change, about every 5 or 10 minutes. So the moon in this chart where I'm at in Dallas, Texas at 1 p.m. is 27 degrees Gemini, 48 arc minutes. The moon in this chart in Thailand at 2 a.m. is at 27 degrees and 48 arc minutes. That lets me know I have the precise moment in time as shown from 2 different locations on Earth. So we have the planets and the signs. And then I actually was jumping ahead to the houses. So the houses 1 through 12, we see here, this inner wheel 1 through 12 with the lines going this way. These are the houses. This is based on your location on Earth where the chart was cast. So time and location. It's essentially as the Earth is spinning, the Earth is always spinning on her axis. 300, she does a full spin, 360 degrees every 24 hours, right? That's why, because the Earth is spinning on our axis, that's why we have the day to night spin, day to night, day to night. When we're spinning away from the sun, where the sun's no longer above the horizon, it's nighttime. Then this Earth actually spins into the sun and then the sun rises. So our sky spins, east to west, sun rises in the east, sets in the west. It's because the Earth is rotating west to east. That's why the sky is spinning east to west from our perspective. So to know, where was the base? So what the houses let us know is where was the Earth in her rotational spin every day, or in any one moment in any day, essentially. So that's what we're going to get to in a moment. And then, so that's based on the houses here, and they are the different settings of our life. So 4th house is like home and family. 7th house is like relationship, one-on-one relationship, partnership. 10th house is career, vocation. These are like really overly simplistic. 6th house is health. 2nd house is money, finances. I'm like being very, very overly simplistic here. But so this is really letting us know these are the local location of the sky based on the houses. And then we have the aspects. So the little red and blue lines that are the middle of the chart, and you see the symbols, like you see the square here, the square here. This is a sextile. The triangles are the trines. These are the sacred geometry. These are the way the planets are communicating with one another. So very simplistically, the blue lines are like a harmonious flow of energy. So when a planet is trining, that means it's in the same element sign. So right here, the moon is trining like the sun. The moon at 27 Gemini is trining the sun at about 23 Aquarius. So that's a harmonious energy. Aquarius and Gemini are both air signs. There's a lot that's in common about them. If you look in the guidebook, go to the air sign page, there's something that's in common about all air signs, even though there are a difference in the archetypes of each 3 air signs, but they're air signs, like they got one another. They're on the same wavelength. Okay. So now, but when planets, the red lines are more of the planets have very different perspectives in their orientation, their perspective. So the conversational flow, there's like maybe more miscommunication. They just have different perspective, and there's nothing good or bad. We all have harmonious aspects. And we all have like ones that are more like the tri or the opposition, the squares that might be more friction, more tension. And it's those that really catalyze soul growth and developing new skills. And so one of the metaphors, I don't know what astrologer said it. A lot of people use this metaphor. It's like the planets are the different actors of ourselves, the different aspects of our personality. The signs are like the style of clothes that actors wear. Venus will essentially dress differently in Aquarius than Pisces, than Aries, right? The houses are the settings. So wherever a planet is in our house, in our natal chart, we really wanted to have an emphasis of exploring that area of life. So, like if I looked at this chart, the sun and Saturn are together in the 9th house in Aquarius. In the 9th house is the house of our beliefs, worldview. It's like the quest for the highest truth, that's higher learning, it's like our spirituality, the search for like our spiritual connection. So Saturn is the planet of self-mastery. The sun is like our life force energy of vitality. Aquarius is, breaking away from the status quo, having a different perspective, doing things in a new way. So it's an unconventional energy. I would say this person is here to maybe be a spiritual teacher, but breaking out of the status quo like paradigms, bringing in a new perspective. Saturn is about self-mastery, claiming your inner authorities. Aquarius is a sign of sovereignty. Maybe someone really speaking on sovereignty. And then like Mercury, the planet of thinking and perception and communicating, is with Pluto. Pluto is always about truth, bringing what's unconscious to consciousness. This person would probably, if somebody was born at this moment in time, they're probably going to grow up to be speaking some really deep, piercing truths. And really, I would imagine really being a big teacher of like sovereignty. So just like looking for a little fun here. This is like, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. So these are the main components of the natal chart. And then what you do is you just start learning like the archetypes of the signs. Or actually start with a planet, the archetype of the planet, because of the different needs of our personality. Then how do they express through the energetic lens of the sign? You could think of each sign as like maybe like a little bit of a different color, right? A different color lens. And then in the house, that emphasis of life. And then you start, but there's just never one planet. I'm never just Venus or just Mars or just the sun or just the moon. All the planets are in communication within us at all times. So that is the conversational flow of the aspects here. Okay, so I just wanted to take a moment to know, and then I think, we just start adding them together. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but we start weaving them together. Now in the guided workbook, I give you some information about the archetypes of the planets, the archetypes of the signs, the elements. I give you a little glance of the houses. So just to get you started on interpretation, we're not going to go over all of that today. That's what I do in the 8-week course. But once you have the foundation, you just start, it's like weaving it all together, and you'll just notice more and more meaning and context and richness over time. So charts, just making a note that I am working with geocentric charts. Most astrologers are, Western astrology, I would say probably over 99%, because that puts Earth at the center. Geocentric chart means Earth at the center. So essentially, if, like, let's say you were living here on Earth, and Pisces would be rising over the eastern horizon. At this moment in time, Virgo would be descending below the western horizon at this moment in time, because we live here on Earth, right? We energetically experience things from here on Earth. Oops, going backwards. So now we're going to get into the structure. We're going to look at the cross of matter, the 4 angles of the chart, which really the ascendant starts your whole chart. It starts house 1 of your chart. And so the whole chart really is structured off of this cross of matter, which is, oops, going the wrong way again. Here, the cross of matter. So this is the meridian line, or I'm like mixing up everything. This is the horizon line that goes here, horizontal through the chart. And then this line that goes up and down, this is the meridian line. This is the cross of matter, right? And in astrology, all the planetary glyphs are composed of circles, circle of spirit, crescent, the crescent of soul, or the cross of matter. The cross of matter brings things down into physicality, density, the physical world, right? This is where we have the 4 directions. We have the 4 seasons. The number 4 is connected to, physicality, building, structure. So I just love this. And this is actually the astrological glyph, the screen, the circle with the cross. That circle with the cross within it is the astrology glyph for Earth. So this is the 4 angles of the chart. Really, the whole chart starts with the ascendant and expresses itself through the ascendant. Your ascendant sign, the planet that rules that sign, is the ruler of your astrology chart. My ascendant is Leo. So the sun rules Leo. So the sun is the ruler of my astrology chart, essentially. And it's like, people feel it. People tell me all the time, they're like, you're like sunshine, And so if you're a Libra rising, Venus rules Libra. Venus is the ruler of your astrology chart. If you're a Taurus rising, Venus also rules Taurus. Venus is the ruler of your astrology chart. If you're an Aries, Mars rules Aries. If you're an Aries rising, Mars rules Aries. Mars is the ruler of your astrology chart. Now, that planet's probably not with your ascendant, right? So right now, this chart here, Gemini is rising over the eastern horizon. This is a Gemini glyph right here. Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury is here in the 8th house in Capricorn. And that's actually, this is what we go over. We actually talk about this level of interpretation in the 8-week course. That's a little too far ahead to jump now, but to know the ruling planet of your astrology chart is very, very significant. So find your rising sign and then go through. Actually, I think I have in the planet section, or also in the sign section, just find your planet and what sign they rule. And that's the ruling planet of your astrology chart. That archetype of that planet is very important. And you might notice, you might look into the archetype of that planet, regardless of where the planet is, and explore, does that describe you? It's really fun. So the whole chart is really breathing through the ascendant. And one of the translations for the word ascendant, and I can't remember what language, but it's like oyox. So it's the, it's the steer of the ship. It's like steering our own ship. Gemini Brett, I learned that from him and I loved it. So from the astronomical perspective, the ascendant is a degree of the zodiac that intersects with the eastern horizon. So in this moment in time, this is, let's see here, this is 16 degrees of Gemini. So Gemini is rising. Just as I showed at the beginning, the day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute spin is clockwise. So Gemini is rising over the eastern horizon. Soon Gemini will be up above the eastern horizon, and the sign below, Cancer, will be rising up to the eastern horizon. So Your descendant is the degree of the zodiac sign that intersects with the western horizon. So that's where things are setting. Every morning the sun sets in the eastern horizon, or every morning the sun rises in the eastern horizon, over the eastern horizon, right? You face east and the sun rises. And at sunset, the sun sets over the western horizon. Now, of course, seasonally, the sun moves back and forth across the horizon. Where I'm at right now, we're just actually past the cross quarter between, in the northern hemisphere, between winter solstice and spring equinox. So the sun is about halfway between the solstice and equinox point. It's rising a little south of east, and it's setting a little south of west. That's not so important, but that essentially just knowing things rise over the ascendant and things set over the descendant. So, and it's not just the sun, everything sets. So all these planets right here, Mars, Venus, Pluto, Mercury, in this chart, probably about 2 hours from now, they'll be setting over or under the descendant. So any planet that is above this line is above the horizon. Any planet that's below this line is below the horizon. And there is interpretive value of knowing that. Now, all of these planets are above the horizon. Pretty much everything other than the moon is above the horizon. But because it's 1 p.m., the sun is, this chart, I actually have the house system set up different. The midheaven is this line right between the 9th and 10th house in this type of chart. It's midday. So I'm not going to see, right? I'm not going to see Saturn by the sun. You won't ever see a planet within 15 degrees or about 10 degrees of the sun, but I won't see Jupiter. I'm not going to see Mercury. I'm not going to see Venus because the sun, blinds out the backdrop of stars and the planets. But I know they're all above the horizon line. Now, and even so, of course, we can look at the time, but if there's no time, you can actually just always tell, was somebody born during daytime or nighttime? If you don't actually have the actual time written out, the sun's above the horizon, they're born in daytime. The sun's down here, they're born in nighttime. So below the horizon is like houses 1 through 6, and above the horizon is houses 7 through 12. So here's just showing above the horizon, below the horizon. Now we will never see the sky below the horizon. It's just, as we're standing here on Earth, we won't. I mean, maybe if you're astral projecting, out of body travel, shamanic journeys or something, you can, but when we're grounded and embodied in our body, we're not, because we don't ever see the ground below, right? The horizon, where the horizon line is where we start to, where we see the Earth, or we see the sky, we see the sky above the Earth, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So now we're going to add the meridian line. So this was the horizon line. Now we're adding the meridian line, the midheaven and the IC. So this forms a cross of matter. And you may say, well, that doesn't look like a cross. You think this cross of matter, these 490-degree angles. Well, the ecliptic plane, the 12, the zodiac, the ecliptic plane is not a perfect, it's not a perfect circle. It's not an elliptical, right? So what I'm trying to say is the Earth does not orbit around the sun in this perfect even circle. It's an elliptical kind of orbit. And so this is why the meridian line does not always intersect the ascendant and descendant in this way. So, but essentially this is the cross of matter. So the midheaven is the degree of the zodiac that intersects the meridian above ground. So it's the high point in time, right? When the sun comes to the midheaven, or MC, it's high noon or midday, right? The sun is at the peak of its arc, and it's about to go on the downward slide of the day. The shadow is the shortest when the sun is at the MC. But if any planet, if Venus is at the midheaven, that means Venus is at the high point in the sky. And then she'll, I'm just kidding. Venus will never come to the midheaven because, she does come to the midheaven. We won't ever see her at the midheaven, is what I'm saying. Every day, every planet will come to the midheaven in the spin, but with our own eyes, we won't see Venus at the midheaven because Venus is always close to the sun and we can't, she's there, but the sun is blinding out. But you will see Jupiter with your eyes at the midheaven. You can see Saturn, not at this time of year, but certain times of the year you will, right? So, or other stars, you might see, Spica, she's in the Virgin Priestess, you might see her at the midheaven. So that's the high point in the sky. And so, yeah, so I think that's what I want to say. We're going to go into interpretation in a moment. The icy is the low point in the sky. Now we will never see the icy because it's below the horizon. So if you just found the meridian, you found the midheaven, and the midheaven's it's not going to be above the top of the crown of your head going up, right? If you look at the sun at midday, it's not there, unless like there is a time of the year, if you're living on the tropics, that you will. But for most of us, especially above the tropics, we will never see the sun at our zenith. But if you find the midheaven, just draw a line down through the earth, out the other side of the earth, that would be the icy. Now to note, the ascendant and descendant are always 180 degrees apart. The midheaven and the icy are always 180 degrees apart as well. So the Imam Choeli or Coeli, it's also, you could say the nadir, the bottom of the chart, it's the degree of the zodiac that intersects the meridian below ground. And we're going to get into interpretation here in a moment. And just to note, so just to kind of reiterate, the location and the zodiac the planets are in are based on sign. So, and those are global. So no matter in any given moment of time, like for right here, the moon is at 27 degrees and 48 arc minutes. Here in Dallas, Texas, the moon is in the first house. But perhaps somewhere else anywhere else outside of especially this time zone, the moon is going to be in a different, like the mountain time zone right now probably has a moon here in the second house. Pacific time zone probably has the, probably has the moon, maybe the third house, maybe the fourth house, something like that, right? But the moon's still at the same place, 27 degrees, 48 arc minutes, regardless. So the zodiac, a planet at its location in the zodiac is global. Doesn't matter where you are on Earth, the same point in time, it's going to be there. The location and the local sky, so where a planet is based in the sign and the degree of the zodiac, based on your local sky, that's going to point to the houses, and that's going to be locational, right? So here in Dallas, Texas, 1 p.m. February 11th, Gemini was rising and Sagittarius was setting. That's only for here. If you're, if you're living where the sun is setting, or I'm sorry, if you were actually, let's say you're somewhere where the sun, let's say you're at this moment in time, your time zone, the sun, you're right at sunset. Well, then because the sun's in Aquarius, everything would rotate. Aquarius would be right here. Aquarius would be setting. So Aquarius would be the descending sign. And the opposite of Aquarius is Leo. So Leo would be ascending. And you can kind of notice, like if you just, so know what sign the sun is in and go out at sunrise. So the sun is in Aquarius right now, right? Every time you go out, if you go out at sunrise while the sun is in Aquarius, when the sun's rising, Aquarius is rising over the eastern horizon, the sign. Go to sunset, right? Watch the sunset. Aquarius is descending under the western horizon. So this Aquarius is the descending sign. Find midday, right? Watch where the shadow gets its shortest, right? That means Aquarius is at the midheaven, the high point in time. So halfway through darkness throughout the night, it's not always midnight, but literally the middle of the night, Aquarius will be, because it's Aquarius season, Aquarius will be at the IC. It's a really great way to get acquainted to it. And I was just actually showing, these are the charts I showed. These are all the same moment in time, but you can see how the planets are all, if you look, they're all the same exact degrees, but the houses they are at are different because this is the same moment in time, but because of time zones and all that, it's like, and where you are on Earth, the orientation of the sky is going to be different. So here's me in Dallas, Texas. I got a snapshot of Hawaii because I think they're about, 8 hours before me. So it's 9 at 1, or no, maybe 6 hours. I'm having a hard time in the moment with math, but 1 p.m. in Dallas, Texas is the same as 9 a.m. in Hawaii. And so the sun is in the 12th house. So the sun is, probably risen above the eastern horizon about 2 hours ago or something like that. So it's just, the sun is just starting to rise. You would, in Hawaii, you'd face towards the east, you'd see the sun starting to climb, but like fairly low on the horizon still. Now the UK, I just set for London, they're 6 hours ahead of me. So 1 p.m. my time is 7 p.m. their time. If you're in London, at 1 p.m. in Texas, Dallas, Texas is 7 p.m. your time. The sun is just is in the 6th house, so it's gone under the Descendant, and so I can tell it's already nighttime. The sun is already below the horizon, so we won't see the sun. There might be a little, a little light still in the sky, a little bit in that in-between portal. Actually, probably not. By this time, it's probably totally dark. And the sun or the moon is like, you would go outside and you'd see the moon really high in the sky. So all of these, the planets are in the same exact spot. The only thing is different is this is based on locationally, where is the Earth in her spin? So it's just a really, if that's like, that does not make sense, just kind of, that's okay. I'm just kind of wanting to show like how we're all experiencing the same planetary energies, but from different locations on Earth. And based on where the signs are moving through the houses are actually our experience will be different. There's different interpretive meaning. So, and I love this little graphic. This is the app Stellarium. So, it's like this like planetarium software, and it's really fun because they have really accurate like astronomy to it. And so I went and I got the exact time for sunrise in Dallas, Texas today. I put it in my astrology chart software, Astro Gold. So 7:17 a.m. And then I went in Stellarium. I set the longitude and latitude to Dallas, Texas, and put 7:17 a.m. So we can see here, the sun is right here. That's the sun right there. And we see here, the sun is right here about to rise over the eastern horizon. You'll see as we go along here. Now I zoomed forward an hour in time. The sun is in the 12th house. There's the sun. You would still kind of turn towards the east and we'd see the sun. Now we see I'm going the wrong way. Now we see the sun rising a little more. It's like we're getting pretty close. We're almost at midday. See how the sun's getting higher and higher and how it's corresponding to the sun here in the chart. Now the sun is like the sun is pretty much about like midday right here. I think I might have a whole signs chart here, which is why the sun's in the middle of the 10th house. And now the sun is starting to go on the downward climb. But do you see here how I'm going to go backwards for a moment? Okay, whoops. So going forward in time, oh no. We can see here how the sun is moving in its arc throughout the day. It gets higher, now it's getting lower. And we see how the sun in the chart is corresponding. So you can literally hold your chart. This is actually for the Northern Hemisphere. Unfortunately, the way chart software works is biased for the Northern Hemisphere. I think it'd be super cool if someone would make the chart software to mirror the lived experience of the sky in the Southern Hemisphere. The charts work for the Southern Hemisphere, but they don't mirror the actual movement of the daily spin. It's backwards. So for a Southern Hemisphere chart to actually like mirror the movement of the sun through the day, like hour to hour, you'd have the ascendant on the right and the descendant on the left, because regardless of what hemisphere you're in, of course, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, but Northern Hemisphere, the sun culminates. That means it's at the high point in time, right? The midheaven, we face south to see the sun culminate. And the Northern Hemisphere, you face north. So in the Southern Hemisphere, the sun moves clockwise. Northern Hemisphere, the sun moves clockwise throughout the day. Like you'll literally see it if you face south and see the high noon sun. And then in the Southern Hemisphere, it moves counterclockwise. So what you would do for the Southern Hemisphere is you'd like maybe print out your chart in translucent paper, have the front of the chart facing away from you, so the back of the chart is facing you, and see through it. And then you could see how I'm doing this. So actually pretend like I'm moving forward in time. I'm moving backwards, but pretend like I'm moving forward in time. This would be like the Southern Hemisphere kind of perspective. And then this would be the daily Northern Hemisphere perspective. Okay. So, and that doesn't invalidate charts. It's just, if you're wanting to sync the chart with the natural sky, you need to know that. So, and a great way you can get acquainted with this is you can even get the Astro Gold app on your phone. I think it's like $35 a one-time purchase, iPhone and Android. I'm not an affiliate. I don't get sponsorship, but it's the best investment I ever made when I started to learn astrology. You can set your default location to where you're living. You can click a now button, see the chart right now where you're living, and go out at sunrise. Look where the sun is, find the sun on your chart, which would be this, and then go out an hour later, look at the sun in the sky, like face it with your body, look at the sun in the chart. And you can do that with planets at nighttime too. So really cool. It's just a really fun way to get acquainted. So now I just want to go a little bit into the meaning, right? So now we had with the astrology or the astronomy, which is essential. Now we're adding some correspondence, some meaning. So the ascendant is the sign ascending over the eastern horizon. It is a sign that is rising within you. So I love the shamanic astrology mystery school perspective says like, this is the mystery school your soul most came to learn and experience in this lifetime. So your rising sign is your vehicle of expression, how you move out into the world. You can think of it as your sun, as your fuel, your vitality, your life force energy, what fuels you. It's your battery pack. Your rising sign is that sign, the archetypal energy of that sign. You may or may not have planets in your rising sign house. That archetypal energy is your main way you're going to go out into the world. It's like kind of your main archetypal identity. You're like trying on for this lifetime and playing in and playing with. So it's often thought of as your persona. So much about your personality. So it's the mask, they say in astrology, the mask you wear for the world, not inauthentically, but it's like when we step out into the world, right? This is how I carry myself. This is how I walk. This is how I talk. When I walk into a party, this is how I'm going to walk into the room and hold myself. Like that's kind of our rising sign. So it's the first impression you make on others in a personal way. It tends to be like, I'm hit or miss with guessing people's sun signs. I am so spot on with guessing people's rising signs because literally this is what the rising sign is. How you let other people see you really without even knowing it. So, and a lot of people don't know their rising sign, but it's like, okay, let's pull up your chart. And, if they can somehow go get their birth time and pull up their chart, it's like, I might be like, wow, are you a Gemini? Like in this chart, Gemini is rising. Or no, this chart Aries is, but are you a Gemini? And they're like, no, my sun is Cancer. But then we pull up their chart and they're a Gemini rising, so good because it's just, you can feel that really prominent energy within somebody's rising sign. So it tends to be how you intrinsically navigate your environment, your attitude towards your environment. It's going to be very much your temperament. That's pretty big I see with rising signs that, like Leo rising. I'm a Leo rising. I tend to have a pretty upbeat, enthusiastic kind of just temperament. Like when I go and out into the world and even just meeting strangers, I embrace them with warmth and enthusiasm. And it took me a long time to realize if somebody doesn't meet me with that energy, I was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? They don't like me or what's wrong? Are they okay? And it's like, everything's fine. They're just not a Leo rising. They don't meet their outer world with that level of enthusiasm. Right. And so, that's just kind of one of the ways that you can look at it. It's going to be your attitude towards your environment. So even like with temperament, right? I have ups and downs. I have a Scorpio moon. I feel emotions very intensely, very deeply, but even with the ebbs and flow of emotion, my general temperament, how I meet my environment is a very Leo, loud, animated, excited, enthusiastic kind of way. And our rising sign even tends to, point to our physical appearance and our body. And, we have a lot that we can change it now, hair dye, makeup, there's so much that we can do to change it. But even astrologers, they guess it right away with my hair, right? Leo risings tend to have curly hair, and it's like that lion's maze. I can't tell you how many astrologers are just like, are you a Leo rising? Like right when I meet them, because they see the Leo hair. So, it's amazing. And so something I wanted to also note real quick is that there are different house systems, and I'm not going to get into that, but with the ascendant descendant line. So some house systems, it's just how we break up the houses. This is definitely going to get more intricate, but some house systems are going to put the ascendant degree right here, 16 Gemini, right on the eastern horizon. So the ascendant descendant line will be that line between the 1st and 12th house and 6th and 7th house. Now, some charts, some charts. So if you're working with Placidus, Porphyry, you're going to see that. I like to work with whole sign charts. That's the most ancient of the chart system, of the house systems. As a lot of text, a lot of ancient text has been translated to English over the last 30 years. A lot of astrologers have gone back to whole signs. It just pairs one sign per house. It's like a big debate kind of in astrology, but the ascendant descendant line is not between the 1st and 12th house and 6th and 7th house. You would follow this line right here between the AS and the DS. Like, whoopsies, that was a little bit off. You would follow that line, right? And then the midheaven, this one is pretty close to the 10th. And so the midheaven, and again, in the whole sign is the midheaven, and icy might not be the cusp of, right at the cusp of the 9th and 10th and 3rd and 4th. Here they're pretty close, but you would follow these. So it's the interpretation is the same with the horizon, but just knowing like that's reflecting the horizon. So just to point that out there. I do whole signs for I actually work with multiple house systems. I know my chart with different house systems, but that's like a whole nother talk for a whole nother day. Uh-oh, going the wrong way. Here, okay. Okay, so go to the workbook and after this, or pause because at this point you're watching the replay probably, and go and go to the end of the workbook, and there'll be some questions to guide you through. So look at your chart, find your ascendant sign, write it down, and then you can go to there's information on all the archetypes of the signs. So go to that section of the signs and read about that archetype, and you can start filling out some of the questions here. And I want to know if you have a planet that's on one of these 4 angles, ascendant, icy, descendant, or midheaven. Those are like PowerPoints. They really emphasize the energy of those planets, and it's the cross that matters. So it really propels us into the world. So when somebody has a major emphasis of planets that are actually on those 4 points in the chart, they tend to be someone who's very in the world, out in the world, like doing something in a very worldly way. Okay, the descendant, and I'm really just scratching the surface here. This is just very much as an intro, just to get you going. I could do a whole hour on just the ascendant. The descendant, so it's the sign that's descending under under the western horizon. How many times have I flipped things backwards today? I have Mercury in Pisces, so I kind of have that energy. It's non-linear. This is where the sky spins and then like kisses the earth, right? I spend a lot of time on the Pacific coast in the US where you see the sky spins and it like kisses the ocean. I just love it. So the descendant is the sacred other. We tend to really embody our ascendant characteristics, and then we project our descendant characteristics onto others. So in ascendant, we kind of embody those archetypal signatures, and then their polarity points. So the descendant's like, I project those onto others, and I learn from others through that projection. So we tend to really draw in people who have strong qualities of our descendant. Now, over time, we really start integrating, astrology is polarity, duality. There's all these polarity points, and then we integrate them over time. So, by the time we've gone through 1 Saturn return 30 or 2 Saturn returns, about 60, we've probably integrated a lot of these 2 already. But so you can think of the descendant as the sacred other. In many house systems, it starts the 7th house. That's the house of one-on-one, non-hierarchical relationships. So romantic partnerships, one-on-one friendships, groups are going to fall more 11th house, but one-on-one, non-hierarchical relationships, business collaborations, that's going to be like 7th house. That's going to be your descendant. So they tend to be qualities you may not naturally consciously embody and project onto others. It's where you learn about yourself through the mirror projection of others. Qualities in others you are likely attracted to. And you may be drawn to people with the qualities of your descending sign because these qualities might not feel as naturally accessible to you. It's like, I experience this aspect of myself through you. Like I'm a Leo rising, my descending sign is Aquarius. I cannot tell you, even before I learned about astrology, how many Aquariuses I had through friendships and then very significant romantic partnerships. Now, oftentimes, if you look at partner, especially like marriages or committed partnerships long-term, usually if if you're talking about yourself, your partner, they probably have a strong emphasis of that descending archetype. Maybe their sun, so for me, it's Aquarius. Maybe their sun's not Aquarius, but maybe they're an Aquarius rising. Maybe they have 5 planets in Aquarius, so we just tend to be drawn because like, wow, we tend to just like that opposites attract. We tend to love our descending sign. And there's also that polarity because it's like, whoa, that's so different. But it's like, it's that polarity, it's that attraction through polarity, through duality. And then over time, we learn to embody them. And really, the descendant sign is going to speak to really kind of how we go about and do relationships, especially, if there's different house systems, but, that 7th house descending sign is how we go about and do relationships. Venus is very much about what do we need in relationships, giving and receiving affection, but 7th house is definitely like I have Aquarius 7th house. So you might think of our descendant. You might think of somebody with an Aquarius descendant. It's going to have an unconventional way of doing relationships, right? Like I've never been married. I don't have children. And that is more common, now in time. But like, so, you could see that like if I had a Libra descendant, I may have been married very early. We do see these correlations. And there's so many different nuances in a chart that changes things from person to person because of where all the planets are placed. No planet is operating alone within us. But, so for me, Aquarius is a sign of freedom, sovereignty. It's like, there can be this kind of detached, aloof, spacious energy. So for me, I need a lot of spaciousness and freedom in my relationships. And that is true. That's why I'm drawn to so many Aquariuses because that's something they value. So like for me, a codependent relationship is like, that's going to be like, oh no, because that's not going to jive with my Aquarius descendant. So then at the end of your guidebook, there's some things you can interpret for the descendant. Midheaven. This is the top of the sky, right? So it's medium coeli, choeli. I've heard it pronounced different. It's Latin for middle of the sky. So the middle of daytime, that's when the sun is at the MC. It's the highest point in the ecliptic in the sky. So it's thought of as your contribution to the world, your sacred contribution to the world. So it's often connected with like soul purpose. There's a few things with soul purpose. It's the blending of our North Node, our Ascendant, our Sun, our Midheaven. But the Midheaven is definitely, there's that connection with soul purpose. So the impression you make on others in a professional sense, it's like where you're seeing your public life, your professional life, your public image, your reputation, also achievement, ambition, success. It is often related to career, vocation. Now, it's not always what we're doing for a day-to-day job. That might be more 6th house. If what we're doing for our day-to-day job is not what gives us a lot of meaning, purpose, that's going to make it 6th house. But our midheaven and maybe our purpose may have nothing to do with our job or how we're getting paid or that. It could be something completely separate. It doesn't have to be our day job. And there's a lot of distortion around purpose. And I think in our kind of the culture that we live in, where it's like, it ties purpose with achievement and success and all those things. And that's not at all related to purpose. It's so much more broader and expansive. And so I just want to bring that in as well. But even if we're not doing what we really feel like most called to do, that would be like, that job would be like a 6th house thing. The midheaven is going to speak to what are the way we're going to go about it, right? Like, so if we're working at a coffee shop, and that may be that may give us so much purpose and meaning, but let's say we're working at a coffee shop and we have a Cancer midheaven. So, Cancer is a very nurturing, nourishing, sustaining energy. So if you have a Cancer midheaven, no matter what job you do, maybe it's a coffee shop or any job, you're going to want to nurture and nourish and sustain and care for and take care of everyone. So at a coffee shop, it's like, everybody's name and you want to hug them and embrace them and you know what drink they like. And then you put the little extra touches to make it extra like comforting and cozy for them, where if you're like a Gemini midheaven and the coffee shop, you go and, you have like these little, you can have the like most amazing witty banter and interactions with everyone that's walking in. And so if you're Scorpio midheaven and you're working in the coffee shop, it might be the way you're going about that is instead of like the Gemini, which might be, I'm going to, it's like the social butterfly, do the witty banter, humor, chatting up everyone. It's like, I'm going to really look for those few people to have the intimate, deep soul piercing kind of conversation, and so that's how it can also be how we go about what we're doing, but soul purpose does tend to be connected to our midheaven, like what you're most called to do in this lifetime, what you most want to offer to the world. If you look to your midheaven, that sign and what planets are there by it, if there are planets by it, that tends to really speak to soul purpose. And so go to your guidebook. There's some things on the midheaven. Now the IC, so this is the bottom of the chart, right? Imam, Coeli, Latin for bottom of the sky. It's a subterranean space. You'll never see the IC in the sky because it's below the earth. It's our connection to the underworld. It's your foundation. So it speaks to your roots, your home, your family, your ancestors, your lineage, right? So like Placidus Porphyry, it starts your fourth house. That's the house of home, family, roots. So it can give you some information about your childhood and your upbringing, right? Like we were talking about Aquarius. I've seen people that have like Aquarius fourth house often had like non-traditional upbringings that was different than like the norm of the society. I've seen people with like Pisces fourth house. I mean, this won't be true. This won't be the same for everyone, but I've seen these broader signatures. Pisces fourth house. Maybe growing up in this, being, having like mystic healing gifts, nurture, nourish, maybe living in a very spiritual kind of upbringing. And it may be not the kind of conservative, traditional kind of like spiritual upbringing, but it may be more of like, I've even seen, I've seen people who've like lived on, who like they grew up on a hippie commune, they had like the Pisces fourth house or Pisces IC. So we do see these signatures. So child experiences and upbringing, it's like what you need to feel safe. So also the moon will point to that as well. The deepest and most hidden aspects of the self. So our IC is who are we when we're at home and the outer world is not watching us, right? So we're just with our closest intimate family, friends, partners, when we're tucked away from the outside world. How are we? How do we carry ourselves then? That's going to be the IC. So private life, deep emotions, some of our deepest emotions, like it's going to really root down to the depths of our emotions. The IC is going to point to that. It's our private life. So like I have my moon close to my IC. I have a Scorpio moon and I have a Leo rising. So there's something very tense about that, which is why so they square your IC and your ascendant typically. And so it's like, my moon in with Pluto. So like, it's almost like, it feels more comfortable for me to be kind of hidden, right? Tucked away, kind of want to fly under the radar. And it's like, that feels more comfortable, right? Because that's my IC, my moons are Pluto, like everything is congregating there where it's like, kind of just, hide, fly under the radar. But I have this Leo rising. It's like, my soul was like, no, you're going to experience the Leo initiation this lifetime, which is showing up, being seen, it's like embracing self-love. And so it's this inner tension, my moon wanting to, I don't want to show up here on camera. That doesn't feel comfortable. And then my Leo rising is like, you got to do it. There's that inner drive. It's like this lifetime you're going to play in the Leo mystery school, which is showing up and being seen. And there's all this kind of internal tension. It is actually a very creative energy that I've learned to love over time because it really catalyzes soul growth. And, but also a lot of people don't typically pick up on my Scorpio moon because they feel my Leo rising. I've got the Aries sun and its house of joy, which is like a whole nother topic. It's like Gemini Venus. And so unless somebody's very intuitive, I can really feel into energy or knows me really well, they tend to not see the deeper, the soulful, the like deeply feels so deeply, so sensitive kind of Scorpio moon that really has a very, very intense depth to emotion. And so you can see how that's in my chart. So those are really the 4 angles of the chart here. Now, if you go to your guidebook and if you're watching the replay, just go to the email And is that, where is it? I'm trying to, I thought I had it. I might have to, okay. Oh, I thought I had it. I'm gonna, whoopsies. I'm gonna find it though. Okay. I'm just gonna, I was like, Mercury's with Pluto today. I'm like, this is very brave to have a webinar with Mercury with Pluto. Ah, there we go. Third pass, post retrograde, third pass. Mercury with Pluto. Okay. So, let's see. Here's the guidebook. I gave you a lot of extra resources here because I want you just to be set up with a lot. So we're start at the beginning. So here's, we have some of the planet glyphs. So if you pull up your chart, right, just go to astro.com, you can get your free chart. That's why you just know what you're looking at. I have a little bit of the archetype of each planet, right? So find your ascendant sign and then find which planet, or actually go to your, well, never mind. We'll come back to that in a second, but this shares about the different needs of the planets, right? I've got a lot on all the archetypes of the planets. This is just for your own reference to really play with later. And again, this is still very brief, but it's something to get going. I really put a lot of intention into creating this. So then we have some information on, here we go, the zodiac signs. So I have them broken down by element: fire, earth, air, water. There's 3 signs in each element. So there's all the glyphs. So when you're looking at your chart, you know, you can pair up the sign with the glyph. Now, this shows the order of the zodiac and the elements. So it goes fire, earth, air, water, fire, earth, air, water. And I have a little bit about the different elements. So just to kind of play with that, just for your own reference, you can take a look. Are most of my planets, you know, do you have a lot of air planets, a lot of air? Are they like evenly distributed between the 4 elements? Or is there like one element where you have a lot of energy? Is there one element where you don't have planets in those signs? Now you have all 12 signs of the zodiac, regardless if you have planets there or not, because we are all a complete mandala. So now here's the signs, right? So find your ascendant sign, and then find the planetary ruler. That's the planetary ruler of your chart. So then go back and explore that planet more. But here's some of the archetypes of the different signs. I just wanted to give you a lot to play with. We're just gonna scroll on down here. Okay, so here's the houses at a glance. This just gives a little bit of the energetic of the 12 houses, very brief, but something to get going. So here is a few just like journaling prompts to get going. You'll probably want to like have other paper where you can just like journal in a journal. I don't think there's enough space here, but so find your chart. What is your ascendant? So look on that, find either the AS or the, depending on what house system, you know, that Eastern horizon, the left side of the chart. Write down your ascendant sign. And then here's some journaling prompts, and you can go back up and look at the sign archetypes, you know, to really help you. And there's really no right or wrong, right? You know, this is your lived experience. So there's some for, then you do the same for the descendant. Find your descendant, find your midheaven, and find your IC. There's journaling prompts. Now this is just if you want to play, this is just kind of starting to put the pieces together of interpreting like planet with sign with house. So you can like, you could do this for all the planets. If you just pick Venus represents my need for, then you can go up to Venus and pick a few needs that are there. So giving and receiving affection, pleasure, beauty as life, you know, whatever it is, write down what house she's in. And then you can go up to the little house graphic, write a few like, so my Venus is in Gemini in the 11th house. That's the house of groups, community, network, connections, right? And express this through. So you write the sign. So for me, that would be Gemini in the following ways, like my Venus in Gemini, she loves to learn, right? Venus is what do we love? Gemini is the sign of learning. My Venus in Gemini loves to learn. She loves to have great stimulating conversation. Like to me, right? Like Venus, the most like sexy qualities I find in someone is like being able to have amazing conversation with them, right? I find like intelligence really like sexy with my Venus and Gemini, right? And of course, that's like there's a much deeper meaning to Venus too. Like the deeper meaning is really like for me, Venus and Gemini, it's like embracing Gemini's the mind. It's like the feminine way of perceiving reality, meeting reality. There's so much, but my Gemini, you know, my Venus in Gemini, she's playful. She likes to be witty and engage in banter with people. And she loves just going and having great conversations with people and learning. It's like reading and podcasting and great conversations, like one of the most fun things for my Venus in Gemini, you know? And so you could do this for all of your planets. So that's just something to get you going here. And now I just want to go back because I am so excited that my 8-week foundations and chart reading course starts next week, February 16th. It's an 8-week course where we really go deeply into the foundations of astrology chart interpretation. Now, today we kind of focused on the astronomy, right? That's just the foundation. This class is going into the interpretation. This is like the juicy part, right? How to interpret the planets and the elements, the signs, the houses, and the aspects of sacred geometry. Then we even go into some other interpretation techniques, and we start adding pieces together week by week. And we're going to work through the context of your own natal chart. So you'll have your own chart and apply the concepts to your own chart each week. And you'll have chances within the classes are going to be interactive. So to partner up, we'll go into breakout rooms. You'll get to have small groups and discuss your chart and have like 10-minute tea time and discuss your chart and learn from one another. And then you get a cosmic workbook. That's kind of like today, like it's really the content I gave you in the workbook today is like a little fraction of all the content for the entire workbook, but the step-by-step guidance on how to interpret your own chart, then you can apply it to other charts. If you sign up by tomorrow, so that's February 12th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific, you'll get 20% off. Add the promo code webinar at checkout, all lowercase. Just be sure to add the code webinar. You'll get 20% off. And then also a bonus free one-on-one mentorship session with me. I've never given away free one-on-one mentorship sessions for something like this. Now, depending on when you sign up, the first 5 people that sign up, you'll get a one-on-one mentorship session, an hour-long one-on-one mentorship session with me. It's a private one-on-one session where we'll get to go deep into, really giving you personalized, individualized guidance on, getting you started with astrology chart interpretation. You can come with your questions. You can ask all those questions. Maybe you might not want to ask in the class, although I do create a really, really safe space. Please ask anything. There are no questions that are like, embarrassing to ask. Like, please ask everything in class. It's this warm, welcoming, safe space where it's safe to not know. If you have a question, I'm sure others do, but you'll get one-on-one time. We'll get to, we can interpret in charts together. We can go through them together. You can take a go at, and I'm here for support. I'm like really here to give you some mentorship to start reading charts. And after the first 5 people, then everyone else, if you sign up through February 12th at 11:59 p.m., you'll get a 30-minute mentorship session with me. So the hour-long one is a $225 value that you're getting for free on top of this class. And the other one is a $150 value that you're getting for free on top of this class, the full course. So it's about 16 to 20 hours of live class together, the 8 weeks. It's $399. There's a 2-part payment plan. I don't charge you anything extra to do a 2-part payment plan. And these bonuses are available for both payment plans. So I think 20% off at $399, it's about $360, right? It brings it down to about $360. And then you're getting like all this value on top of it. I do want to take a moment here. Really excited. I have a great group that signed up already. We're already connecting with one another and the private community group. Yeah, so here's the website. It's with the, just find it under this video. It shows everything you're getting. It's 8 classes that are 2 to 2.5 hours in length. I have the time because it's, I leave time, space for an organic unfolding of questions engagement, discussion. The last time I taught this course, there was a lot of lively engagement and discussion and questions. We had so much fun learning together through discussion. Every class is so unique based on who shows up. So this is the curriculum. This is really about interpretation. We start with the elements. You'll be able to interpret astrology charts just with the elements. My first astrology teacher told me that if you can interpret an astrology chart just on the elements alone, planets and the elements, you can give, if you understand the elements on a very deep level, on a very intimate level, you can give incredible astrology readings just with that interpretation. So we're going to start there. And then we're going to add on really going into the planetary archetypes, the sign archetypes, the houses, the aspects. Each week as we add on. So now, right, adding on the planets and the elements, then adding in the signs and adding in the houses, then weaving in the aspects. And then we're even going to go deeper. We're going to work with planetary rulership on interpretation. So you also get video recordings of everything. You get the cosmic workbook, kind of like what today it is. It's more broken down by topic, week by week, and it's much more expansive. Like this is the book printed out. When somebody local who was in my last course printed it out and put in a binder, and she let me look at it, and I was like amazed. Look how much content this is. I had so many students in my last class, so they're going to be coming for years to come to reference their guidebook here. So you get that. And then there's also 2 live hour-and-a-half Q&As where you can come and ask your questions. Now, if you're signing up by tomorrow, you get the private one-on-one session as well. And we have the private Facebook group for community. I'm not a fan of Facebook. You know, there's some major issues. I would like to eventually totally get off of Facebook. But as of right now, that's where I have access to a platform to have this kind of community engagement. So I know it's not ideal, but you know, it is what it is. And so I think those are the main things I wanted to show. You can just click here anywhere on the page, click sign up, and you can then sign up. And these bonuses are available regardless if you're doing the 1-part or 2-part payment plan. So I think that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope you have a good got some gems from this and have a more in-depth understanding of the sacred astronomy of the astrology chart. So now you can start doing the fun part and start adding the meaning and the interpretation. So I love you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you soon, however that is.